Khalid, it's my honor now to introduce you.
It's my great pleasure, Doctor, and I really enjoy your session.
Thank you, Khalid. Let me quickly move on. It's 2:46. So to quickly introduce our next speaker, Khalid Al-Khud. I hope I pronounced his second name. Khalid, I hope I pronounce your last name correctly. I'm going to call you Khalid. And who is a CEO, speaker, and consultant. Khalid is an international speaker, entrepreneur, a leadership expert, and a business consultant. He has expertise over 20 years and has been invited on several occasions to speak, not only in the online platform, but also in the physical world. And he has developed characteristics that make him an effective coach. He's an effective coach, and he trains companies and conducts sessions on across topics, a very wide array of topics, including CSR, corporate social responsibility, public relations, public speaking, event management, motivational speeches, as well as voluntary services, and also how to volunteer yourself in service, especially in this time of need as well. He will be talking to us about, are we ready? Are we ready for the next pandemic? Over to you, my brother.
Thank you, Doctor. And good morning to everyone from Bahrain and to the world as well. Today, we will be talking about the real readiness of, are we ready for the next wave if it happened? Are we ready for the next change if it happened? And let's be very honest that whatever happened to the world in the past 6 months, something wasn't expected. So it was just like a big shock for everyone. And it, in my personal opinion, it did change even the definition of what is crisis is all about. So if we move on to our first slide, Doctor. Next, Doctor. The general, let's say, definition for a crisis, first, go back, Doctor, please. If we go back to the definition of crisis, now the general definition says that crisis is which the trend or a future event, especially for better or for worse, it determine or turn into turning point. Now this is in general, but when the COVID-19 have arrived to this world, we see that the definition have been tremendously changed into saying that the crisis is to be the point in the course of a serious disease and in which critical change occur, leading to either a recovery or death. Now, that make us understand that crises, whenever they appear, they were going to have different shape. We had financial crisis in the world. We have natural crisis that happen. Now we have a disease crisis that's happening, and many other disease crises that happening. Every single thing that happened and affect the world in a different way, in my personal opinion, it will have a different definition. So what we have to do by today is to get ready to how to identify this crisis that's going to happen. If we move on to the next slide, in the past 6 months, the world have witnessed a big, tremendous change. Let's talk about the effect of COVID-19. More than 8 million plus people have been confirmed as of yesterday. 8 million plus people have been affected by the COVID-19. Nearly 500,000 of them is dead. Countries which is affected is more than 200 plus. Confirmed recovery, if you compare it even to the numbers of cases that is in the world, it's almost half of it. So we're not even there yet. Economy, as of yesterday, 76 billions have been lost. And when you talk about the social, our life, our lifestyle, our career, many things that is related directly to us, 100% we have been affected. That's make us understand that things can happen in a blink of eye. So what we can do is to get ready for those things. If we move on to the next slide, Doctor, the current pandemic have affected us in the social and the culture. Let me share with you the normal things that it's happening nowadays with us in our life. And we used to wake up in the morning, go to work. We're not doing this. We used to have a gathering with the family. We don't do this. Even in our holiday celebration, we're not having a holiday celebration anymore by gathering with the family, have a nice dinner or lunch, due to only a virus which have changed our culture, communications, and the social communication. Economy, we know how countries is affecting. Education, some countries is not ready even for the online courses, for online education for the students. University is trying now. Those countries who is not ready with the system is nowadays suffering from this. Health-wise, we know that the focus now is on the numbers of citizens and people who is affected by the COVID, and there is a lack now in providing a good health care to the others who have different diseases or different sickness. Government policies, closing off airlines, and many other things that is happening just to prevent the expansion of that disease. So if you notice, a lot of things have been affected, while the core things of our life depends on the social, economy, and the environment. Now, the environment, as a statistic says, that it's getting better, but not in all the aspects that it can build a sustainable living for everyone. But when you look into those aspects that it's been that we talked about today, what can we do to improve the social and the culture within the current, let's say, force that is happening to the world? What can we do to come up with a good economy and good businesses that can generate good funds for us? How can we improve the education and the training online? How can the health sectors have a way out? Let's say maybe the medicine will work. That they're trying to find a good medicine to help the infected people, but at the same time, how can we get ready from now if something else happens? Government policies as well. We can look into how the countries will build their new strategies to overcome the national crisis. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, this situational thing, when it happened, it made everyone panic in a way. Let's say there was an urgent needs of information, and it's have to be provided at the spot. Those things now, it was a problem, but if you look into it in today's world, businesses can start by gathering informations for governments, for economy, for private sectors and government sectors, and make those information ready for them from now. And also some of the corporates that we have communicated with, they started to realize the importance of making data resources ready for them, so they can build up their strategy and their, let's say, plan B strategies to overcome the challenges that they're facing. Decisions required urgently, and those decisions cannot be taken when the crisis happened at spot, because they need to go back and get the information, which is a demand things at the spot. Time is short to take action, and resources is not there for them, and that was also another thing. Specific threats are identified within the process of implementing solutions. So those matters that happened made people realize that they're not ready for taking the right decision to overcome this big challenge that they are facing. That's making us move on to the next slide, Doctor. Now, for you to build an effective things, you have to put 4 elements And those elements will help you for proceeding and making your crisis management team have tools in their hand. The consequences that affected your organizations have to be clear. Specific threat to your organization have to be identified. General, let's say, threats in a high level that surrounding your organization have to be noticeable, and you have to be clearly about the effect that is directed and undirected to your organization. That's maybe the safety of your product. Some of the organization, the health affected them very well. I know one of the organization which they're on the construction line, and the effect when the crisis happened to them, more than 10,000 plus employees globally have been affected, and the businesses was stopped. What happened after that? Employees didn't get paid, so families was suffering, accumulating of loans, fixed and unfixed payments was delayed, lifestyle was changed. So if we gather those four things, including the key features of a crisis, if we gather those four, let's say, elements, we can move on and provide a good data, a good information to the crisis management. Let's move on to the next slide, Doctor. Now, crisis management, when you want to plan the exit or to minimize the damage of that crisis management, first thing you have to do is to assess the risk. And your product or plan that you want to put, it have to be, first of all, we have to put realistic plans. And realistic plans have to work on the current situation based on a real data. The second thing, you have to draw up a communication plan. Your communication, first, you have to have an effective communication internally with your crisis management and the higher level managements of your organization. And also produce contact and organizational chart for those who's gonna process the implementation. And they have to follow the communication line effectively and do the implementation, which will gonna bring solutions to the assessment which was carried on the first page. Define roles and responsibility. It's very important because you are in a very critical situation. You have to define the roles and responsibility, not to have, let's say, waste of time, clashes of duties, and many other things, which end of the day will delay the solutions or might also add more to the problems that you're having. Appointing crisis management team is very important because they will gonna be the implementers, also the ones who's gonna feed the upper managements with the right information about the process. Promoting the organizational culture, and this is very important because during what we say the crisis management, the culture sometimes get very affected in organization. It's get affected in a way that everyone is panicking, emotion impact is there. It's reached to 80 and 90. People don't know what's their directions. They don't know where they're gonna go. If their job is secure or not. If they're worried about their family and many other things. Organizational culture have to be secure. Publish a plan and conduct a training for your staff. Makes them aware about your direction that you want to implement by the crisis management team. Make sure that everything is smooth. Once those four elements, let's say plans is on the right channel of implementation in your organization, make a test, review, and share what you find. Because that is, see, we always put the most beautiful plans to overcome challenges in our life, in the corporates and government sectors. But if you don't run a test, if you don't review the process of your test, if you don't have a feedback, if the process is wrong, it is going in the right way or in the wrong way, the whole plan that you did, including the assessment risk that you did in the beginning, won't be worth it. So it's very important to do the test review and the share of the feedback. Let's move on to the next slide, Doctor. Now, communication, when it comes with with your internal or external bodies, have to have 5 ways of communication, or let's say 5 implementation when you do the communication. First, identify the internal audience, your employees in the corporate, the people who works with you. Identify their interests. During crisis, we find out that when you send messages, people is not focused with you. People is in a different world and you're talking to them about your world. So you have to identify the real audience that is going to be loyal to you, to your organizations, to your corporate, and really want to work with you. They won't leave you because they're facing a challenge. And communicate with who we are communicating with and how we are communicating with them is very important. That's what going to make us move on to. Now, we identify the people, we identify the message, we have to identify the communication channel and with that. Where are we communicating with them and when? If you have something that happened to you out of a sudden, your mind is not with you. If you come and address somebody about an exit plan, at this particular moment, he won't be with you. So you have to prepare him for your message before you send this message to them, especially with your team that will be leading this crisis management solutions. And very important things we find out of our research that we will share with you also, that many organizations fail because they don't measure the impact of their process. Now, it's very important at the first stage when you communicate your message with your employees or with the corporate or with the private sector or government sector. After you send your message, measure the impact of your message. That can be through the progress. Progress achievements can be one of the drops of measuring the impact. The core process is active and two-way communication between you as the sender and the receiver by measuring the impact of your message. Let's move on to the next slide, Doctor. Professor, next slide. Thank you. Now, moving on to this slide, it's very important to know that there is 4 steps, which is very important in our channels of continuing our businesses. We will start with the human capital, the people who worked with us all this time and made us have a very successful businesses. They come number 1. Because without them, you cannot even move on out of the problem, out of the crisis that you are facing. Now, having a plan and securing those people and making them continue their task or their work and their loyalty and their commitments to your work is very important. So first thing is plan the safety, plan the plan for your human capital. They are number 1 in any organization. Now, the second thing that you should focus on is the business itself. You need sometimes to reshape your business. You notice that a lot of businesses moved online. Now, those people who moved online, it's because the problem happened and made them think about solution. Most of the innovation on the world, most of those new invention happened due to problems. They wanted to find solution. They wanted to find services that can have a satisfied method for the needs of people. And because of that, they came up with these new ideas. Now, COVID-19 as a crisis that hits the world teaches us that lesson. made people move on from their ordinary business line into let's say the online, and moving their businesses to the cloud, and that makes them move on to the channel which is more profitable for them. On the third line, we will have the stockholders, or those people who will gonna be believing on the plans that coming out of this crisis in our corporate, and they will gonna continue giving their support. Now, we have to give them security as well. That's our plan is very much, let's say, in line with the outcome expected. And last but not least, we have to look into the regulations surrounding us, the policies. Because lots of countries, we notice that they have support policies for the corporate, private sectors, and some of the government sectors as well, for them to continue their businesses. And for that, it made them move on to the right channel. Now, let's move on to the next slide, Doctor. Now, I would like to share with you those steps that can make us overcome the corporate crisis, or the crisis which can hit the corporate. First of all, we have to understand, let's say, to take the time to understand the real problem, the real crisis. Now, when COVID-19, I will take it as an example. When COVID-19 happened, people thought that's just a disease and it will not gonna be, it won't affect many sectors in our life. Quickly they will find solution, they will find medicine, and things gonna be so fine. Now, that wasn't let's say a good analyzing to understand the problem that was, we're gonna say the problem who reshaped our lifestyle in the world. And due to that, not a good, let's say, precautions happened and led to lots of losses. So for that, the first thing we have to do is to understand and have the real define, as we said on the first slide, each problem, each crisis have a different definition. And for that, we have to identify the problem clearly. Let's move on to the next slide, Doctor. Now, we have to have a plan with the clear objectives. Now, if you would like really to come out from a problem, or from a crisis, or from a loss in your corporate, the objective have to be clear and understood to everyone. Now, this is not an easy channel when you want to have a clear objective communicated to other people, because you are the one who built it up, and we notice it as well. It's one of the things that build uncomfortable culture within organization. If you don't have a clear plan, clear objectives, you will not going to succeed in moving forward and build that strategy to overcome the challenges. That's going to make us move on to the third thing, and the third element to overcome the crisis on the objectives. Doctor? Thank you. Internal communication with a dedicated team. Now, during crisis, you have to know exactly who is your dedicated team, because if you're going to communicate with a team that you will find out later on that some of them are not committed to implement your objectives, your directions, solutions, guidelines, you will gonna end up going back to score one, or they will delay you from going out from this crisis or the problem. Now, I'll give you an example that happened in one of the smelters that we worked with. This smelter had an overhead expenses, although they have 6 figures dollars, let's say millions plus dollars projects in one of the countries. They are in charge of construction and road services, plus financing for vehicles and atmosphere, and they have around eight channels of businesses. Now, due to when the problem happened and within their organization, that one of their major line of services collapsed due to we will call it of unclear circumstances, and that was basically family businesses interferes. When they wanted to overcome this challenge, they did understand the problem. They put a clear objective with their consultant, but when they came to communicate it with the team, they found out that some of those team members wasn't committed for that. And because of that, what happened is the outcome was worse than the problem itself, because the direction of commitment wasn't there. So the time was against them, and it reached to not meeting the deadlines and having more problems coming up with this. So when we talk about implementing, we have to have the dedicated team, and that's going to make us move on to the next slide, which is understanding the potential impact. Doctor? Doctor, now in this slide, and to everyone, understanding the potential impact, because during your process, you're sorting out a problem. So there will be things that will come, and it's not something that you're expecting it to come, because it's similar to the crisis that you're trying to go out of it. Maybe new rules going to come up. I'll give you an example. If you are into the cargo services, and in the cargo services, your major line of business is to transport goods from countries to another. And while you are putting the solution, a new rules came and which says, you know what, we have to stop the import and export. Now, this is something which you are not expected it to happen. And due to that, your whole plan needs to be reviewed again. So always have, let's say, ideas for unexpected potential that can be added to your problems. And this will going to make us understand where are we standing. And the next slide, I will talk about how you can position yourself. Now, positioning yourself is very important, because you are in the center, surrounded by the information that you had it in the first line, which is knowing exactly the problem. The second thing, you have put your clear objectives. You have the team with you. You have the expected for the unexpected. And now you're in the middle. You're in the middle of the information flow, the activation flow, and the manpower flow, because they are the one who's, let's say, the human capital flow, because they are the one who's going to do the implementation. And because you're in the center as a decision maker or a follower for the crisis management team, you are in a position where you're going to be, let's say, sometime overcome or overloaded with the activation plans. And due to that, you might miss some of the quality of qualities which is very important for you to stand out of the problem itself. So positioning yourself with going back to the right team, going back to the plan B's and C's and all the way to Z, going back with the clear objectives. Once those are surrounding you and you're positioning yourself in the middle of those in a clear follow-up methods, you can move on easily out of the crisis. And that will make you identify a multiple position, uh, uh, let's say, possible solutions. In the next slide, you will find out, because of what you did by positioning yourself in the middle of those positiveness selections of knowing the clear information, having the clear objectives, you having your clear team, having your understanding the potential impact, and you're positioning yourself in the right place. Now you can see the possible solutions coming from different places, because the commitments that you have toward the solution is high, and that itself will gonna make you understand how other solutions can be on your way in the easiest time. Now, all what we have said is beautiful, but we have to get to know one very important thing. Again, failures of organization and overcome crises and problems and challenges is that they don't measure the impact. So in the next slide, we would like to talk about the importance of measuring the impact. And to take measuring the impact in a very detailed matter, I will explain it in the next slide. So in the next slide, the 7 things that I talked about is we have to have clear identifications for the problem and clear understanding for the problem. We have to have clear objectives, good teams, the right teams with us, understand potential impact, positioning ourselves in the right place, and identify the possibility of more solutions and measuring the impact. But when we come to measuring the impact, I have 4 things to share with you today. And that's in the next slide. Defining your main objective and what exactly you would like to measure. Now, let me share with you this example about misunderstanding what is the measure of impact of the solution. Let's say a very simple example is when let's say the governments have a budget to sort out an issue, which is the traffic in one road, and they decided to build a bridge. And this bridge, when they build it, as per the studies that they did, it will sort out the traffic issue, less flow gonna be in that particular road. Other, let's say, vehicles will be directed to another new route, and the problem will be sorted out. That's the impression. Now, the budget has been allocated. Once the budget is allocated, they give it to the contractor. The contractor take the budget. They go and they build the solution, which is the bridge. And within a couple of months, they do a beautiful opening for the bridge. They cut the rope, and guess what? Everybody is happy. Now, the solution was there, but they find out after 8 months or 1 year or maybe 2 years, the traffic went back again, and it was worse. So they go and they check, they say, okay, we did the right thing, but why the problem appears again? Because they did not measure the impact after the accomplishments of the project. Because after the accomplishments of this project, which were taken as example, a new community came, built their houses next to the bridge area. A new commercial buildings started to operate next to the new bridge. So people started to go to work, people started to live there. So the population in that particular area became more. And for that, more people started to use the new way. So because there wasn't a proper measurement for that particular solution, the problems appears again. So it's very important to define our main objective of that solution. If we want to measure the impact of the solution, the first thing we have to define our main objective. Once we define our objectives, we move on to develop a theory or a case to assist and recognize the driver, the driven of our objectives. That's what's going to make us understand that are we in the right channel of checking our objectives? The objective that we have built up to measure the impact, is it in the right channel or not? So this is gonna act like let's say a teaser or a test for us to understand, are we measuring it right or we are in a different direction? Through this, we will identify the specific activities that employees can do to help achieving the main goals. Now, that will make us, we'll move on to the third element or the steps. Here we will get to know the outcomes that it's come from the activities that is implemented by the employees that we have selected or the measuring impact team. Now, the activities is the first result of the final report. So we identified, number one, the objectives. Second, we have built up the scenario. Third, we have tested the employees' activities as an outcome for the report. Once those three things is in our hand, the impact will be accomplished in a right way as a report by evaluating our statistics. So in the last slide, we have to evaluate our statistic that came from the three directions. The first direction is the objective was met or not. The second is the theory that we have implemented as a test worked or not? And the third thing is the outcome from the implementation through the team that we selected met or not? The statistic that comes when we evaluate them, they will measure if the impact of the main subject is correct or not. So we go to the second slide, which will gonna give us the full picture. Doctor, next slide. So in this slide, we got to know that we have to define the main objective, develop the theory, check the activities through the teams, and evaluate our statistic. Nowadays, any impact that comes, any crisis that comes, any problems that comes to our corporate, if we use the 7 steps and follow it up by measuring the impact of our implementation steps, will make us understand, are we ready for the next wave or not? And for you to get to the next wave, you have to also cope with the changes that it's happening into the world. The world is moving to the cloud, so you have to be in the sky and be available with your corporates. See how beautiful is this conference, and I will take it an example. For today, we are communicating from different countries all over the world because of a problem that happened to the world, and it's called crisis of the COVID-19. We use the cloud, we are communicating, we're sharing solution, and we would like to become a better thinker. The internet, you have to be visible in the internet because you have to be also available. Every single person having the device in his hand, connect to the world and be available. Once you are available in those channels, you will be connected, updated, and also know exactly how to move on to the next challenge that it can appear in your life or in your corporate. I really have a beautiful time with you all today, and thanks to Professor for moderating my session. I'm looking forward for any questions, and looking forward also to learn more and listen more to the outstanding speakers throughout the days of this conference. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Khalid, for your presentation. I just want to look at some of the... Thank you. I just want to look at some of the comments here. Yeah. So, yeah. Before general comment here, yes. Be careful about the time domain to ensure that you get access to all the material that's covered online here. So, Khalid, a quick question for you. You have very clearly articulated several steps that especially the 7 steps to actually manage crisis a lot better for organizations. Yeah. To what extent are these steps actually also relevant to different types of crises? For example, man-made or natural disasters, things like earthquake, things like fire, things like, are they also applicable?
It's applicable. You see, when you want to sort out any problems, first of all, even in normal problems, you have to identify what is the problem.
Okay.
If you don't have the right identification of the problem itself, your solution in the second and third and fourth steps won't be right and won't be clear.
Exactly.
So the first thing is implemented for both. Having a plan with objectives, that's also applicable for all, because you cannot just know the problem and says, I have the solution, I know it. Yes, it might be a practice that you used long back, but it's not implemented in the current situation.
Exactly. Well said.
So you have to have a clear objective for the same. The third thing, no one can work by himself. And we have seen a lots of organizations falling apart because of that. It's only me or the highway. So you have to establish a very committed team to work with you, because you're not there every time.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's implemented as well in our life, in our corporate, and also into other sectors. Understanding the potential impact that we talked about with number 4. Now, if you don't understand what's the impact can come through the implementation, you're not moving in the right way. What do we say in sorting out the normal problem? Know the problem, identify the solutions, have alternative solutions, select the first one, test, and then evaluate.
Sure.
So now, through this method, if you look into it, we have to think about solution and put alternative solution in the implementation. Because that, if you don't have this in your plan, end of the day, you're going to stop. And you have to you have to go all the way to identify the problems itself.
Exactly.
If you move on to number positioning yourself, that's very important. If you don't position yourself to look around into the progress, which will lead you to have a very clear measure of the impact of the solution,
right,
which is applicable for any problem with any stage. As I said, our failures in the corporates and also in, let's say, in professionals' life, that we do implement a lots of things, but we don't measure the impact of our implementation.
Yeah.
And we take it for granted that it's going to be only a timely thing. I will do it, and once the problem is done, my job is done.
Yeah, true, very true.
It's very important. If you will tell me what is the most important step out of the 7, the first 1 to 6 is implementation. And that I'm going to give them 70%, but for all of them, for the 6 steps. But I'm going to give the remaining percentage goes all the way to measuring the impact.
Sure. Thank you, Khalid. Sure. We have about 1 minute. Probably just a quick question for you. Based on your experience, especially in your work in relation to crisis management, how would you rate organizations currently? Are they really prepared for the next pandemic? Are they doing well? Should they do more?
if you looked into the economic effect on the slide number 3, that was the reading of yesterday.
Okay.
And that was the reason why I didn't send you the things before yesterday, because I wanted to up to date effect on the corporate. If you look into this number didn't come from only major businesses wide world. There is big numbers of small and medium businesses which really affected, and a lot of number, a large number closed their businesses. So the effect is there. Now, if you are not thinking of how you can twist your businesses into a real opportunity, and this is a great platform that we're having today. This platform will going to give solution for a lots of corporates and private sectors into how they can redesign their business activities.
Okay.
Yeah. If yesterday the training was being in a class and delivering the talk to your delegates, today you have to be online and ask everyone to be ready in their locations and deliver the same. The world is accepting this now.
Yep, definitely.
Because this twist is now not a choice. It's a must.
Yeah, we have to embrace this. Yeah.
And
Thank you, Khalid.
This is only one of many examples of the corporates.
Okay. Thank you so much, Khalid, for your time and for your sharing today. I'm sure we have all benefited from how and why we need to prepare for crisis and the next pandemic. Thank you so much, Khalid.